Hello everyone! This is Saurian Target welcoming you to the first entry in a special video series here on the channel, where we are going to be taking a thorough look at the official Carnivores games in the format of a review. Now, this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. We've had a ton of fun analyzing the amazing mods that you guys have created for the Carnivores games, but I wanted to take a look at the games that started it all, and gave us this fantastic universe to play around in, and that's what this series is going to be. Back when I worked on the university newspaper, I got to do all of the movie reviews, which was something that I loved doing, even more so than watching the movies themselves sometimes. And so I thought I could pull that format over here and take a look back at the official Carnivore series in retrospect. In this series, we'll be analyzing each game in detail, its story, artwork, sound work, gameplay mechanics, and overall legacy. So without further ado, let's begin with the game that started it all, almost 20 years ago, Carnivores. The brand new Deer Hunter franchise owned the hunting genre from 1997 to 1998, releasing 5 all-too identical entries where players could shoot down helpless deer over and over and over and over again. Then, on November 30th, 1998, WizardWorks and Action Forms released a game that changed the genre forever. Carnivores, a hunting simulator that replaced helpless deer with hungry dinosaurs that could actually turn hunters into the hunted. Long gone were the days of the mindless shooting galleries of Duck Hunt, and although Deer Hunter's newly introduced formula would prevail for years after, Carnivores introduced AI in a hunting simulator that could hunt back. Players could select their targets and loadouts, stalk their prey using wind direction and calls, and fight for their lives if hunts went south, all in an incredibly atmospheric and mysterious prehistoric landscape. Carnivores garnered favorable reviews from critics and solidified itself as a cult classic that spawned multiple sequels, spin-offs, reboots, and, of course, many mods. But let's take a closer look at this original game that really set itself apart from the crowd. Like most, if not all, of the hunting games published by WizardWorks, Carnivores was a very simple and bare-bones game. Intertwined with a satisfying yet brief ranking system, pre-hunt preparation allowed hunters to select one of 6 maps, one of 7 dinosaurs, one of 3 weapons, and their choice of up to 4 perks. And that's it. Not too many options, especially compared to the later entries in the Deer Hunter or Cabela's franchise. But what sets Carnivores apart is its expansive yet subtle story. Hunting games rarely handle stories well. They usually hit one of the 2 extremes in storytelling, either telling no story at all or having so much story that players are more or less watching a movie with the occasional button press. But Carnivores accomplished something few other hunting games have ever achieved by hitting that perfect middle ground between telling an interesting story and giving players the freedom to explore. In the year 2190 AD, a distant planet is discovered, teeming with alien animals that resemble dinosaurs of prehistoric Earth. Soon, an Earth corporation buys the planet and forms Dino Hunt Corp., a galactic hunting safari of which you are the newest client. This sets the stage. Then you step into the world. Immersive jungles where you can feel the heat and fog, hear the distant screech of an unknown creature, hunt in haunted temples or through cryptic pyramids, and watch the local wildlife live. Carnivores lets players explore the world and uncover the mysteries of the planet on their own, as well as conduct their own adventures. Whether it's stalking a stegosaurus through the jungles of Gravitsappa, outrunning a velociraptor to the safety of the ancient temple, only to be greeted by a disembodied voice, or sniping a tyrannosaurus from atop a dinosaur-themed pyramid, the alien world of Carnivores is the perfect prehistoric sandbox to experience countless adventures. A true pity that many people today are clueless to the mystic story set up in the Carnivore series, unaware of the influence it's had on so many dinosaur games. But to those who have experienced a trip to the dinosaur planet themselves, the power of the game's story is unparalleled. And while the story and setting to this pristine planet are the perfect setup, it's the dinosaurs themselves that bring the world to life. The creative team at Action Forms did something truly defining with their alien dinosaurs. In a post-Jurassic Park world where dinosaurs had seen a resurgence in popularity as swift, intelligent, and bird-like animals, Carnivores took them back to their paleontological roots. The alien dinosaurs of planet FMMUV-32, herbivores especially, are designed after the work of the late great paleoartist Zdeněk Burian, who, along with Charles Knight, helped redefine the way people saw dinosaurs in the 1900s. Huge, lumbering behemoths was the style for the herbivores, while the predators themselves received more Jurassic Park-inspired builds and color patterns, while still retaining the essence of Mr. Burian's iconic designs. How unfortunate that many people today mistake the culturally beautiful and thoroughly detailed dinosaurs of the planet for generic, royalty-free models or ignorantly outdated restorations. But the designs are nothing short of grand. In addition, the dinosaurs have mortal zones, allowing skillful hunters to use all of their ammunition to take down as many dinosaurs as possible, which is a phenomenally realistic and sorely missed gameplay mechanic. And although the sound work may be composed of many stock sound effects, they're used in such a way that truly immerses players in a prehistoric environment. And for me personally, this was the first time I ever heard many of these sound effects, forever ingraining them in my mind as iconic Carnivores sounds. Not to mention, the sound design functions phenomenally as an actual hunting mechanic. The sound is 3D, so hunters can use the sounds of the world to actually track their saurian targets. From the natural hum of birds and crickets, to the gentle rumble of rushing water, to the eerie bellow of a distant dinosaur, to the ominous whisper of a disembodied voice, the sound work in Carnivores is top-notch, and still holds up to this day in immersing hunters in a prehistoric alien world. The technical side of things is where Carnivores really starts to stumble, from a severely limited roster to a rather buggy build. The pre-hunt preparation is severely handicapped, allowing players to select only one dinosaur and one weapon for a hunt. Granted, this keeps the hunts feeling more realistic, as real hunters would not be able to carry around 6 different weapons and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. But each hunt always feels cut short. Hunts don't feel like grand adventures or exciting explorations of the natural environment. They feel like a quick pop in, kill 1 to 2 dinosaurs, run out of ammo, and be back in 5 minutes. There's no taking down a Parasaurolophus with a mid-range weapon, then having to switch to a self-defense weapon to nullify that startled Velociraptor before sniping the fleeing Stegosaurus you weren't even hunting. It's just one weapon, one dinosaur, and that's it. And while the sound design for the game is top-notch, from a technical side, sound is one of Carnivores' biggest problems, especially today. The sounds, from the peaceful main menu ambience to the in-game sounds, often glitch and get stuck on a horrific loop, which, coupled with many frightening static sounds due to just the game's old age and build, make using the game's unique hunting mechanics almost impossible. Not to mention, it's just not that compatible with modern computers. Because its engine is so much less modder-friendly than its sequels, keeping the original Carnivores up to date and relevant on modern machines hasn't really been a top priority for anyone. Even with patches, the game crashes all the time, which is a real shame. Despite its technical and aging problems, what about its legacy? What did Carnivores bring to the table that has remained prominent to this day? Quite a lot, I'd argue. For its genre especially, Carnivores was a game changer. In the late 90s, Deer Hunter had a monopoly on hunting games. Cabela's was just getting started with rough shooting gallery type games, and even the omnipresent Deer Hunter entries mostly played out like a shallow round of target practice on distant, non-lethal, and pixelated targets. Carnivores changed that. It introduced animals that could put up a fight and actively hunt back. Sure, there were plenty of dinosaur shooting games thanks to the lucrative Jurassic Park franchise, and even the grandfather of dinosaur shooters, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. But those games never portrayed the mesh of dinosaurs, man, and firearms with such gravitas. And despite its title, Turok never really felt like a true dinosaur hunting experience. In these games of old, dinosaurs were monsters, enemies, obstacles to overcome, with high-grade firepower and platforming. Carnivores took the basic idea, but introduced dinosaurs as animals, living and thriving on their own world, and crafted a hunting system that still rivals top-of-the-line hunting titles today. Even Deer Hunter 5, the only game in that series that I own, another story for another time, came out in 2005 and doesn't feature dangerous animals. I mean, it has dangerous animals in the game, but they just run around players, or right through them, with AI completely and unrealistically oblivious to anything. The animals of Carnivores felt alive, feel alive, and are a part of one of the richest dinosaur game universes ever created. Without Carnivores, I'd argue, there'd be no Primal Prey, no The Hunter Primal, no Dino Hunter Deadly Shores, and even no Cabela's Dangerous Hunts, in my opinion. Sure, a dinosaur hunting game might have come along eventually, but it's so clearly evident in the aforementioned games, and so many others that I haven't mentioned here, that inspiration was taken from this criminally underrated hunting simulator. And now, before the end of the video, I want to briefly analyze the in-game elements, the maps, dinosaurs, and weapons, and how they hold up. I've talked at length about these aspects of Carnivores before here on the channel, but because I'm a completionist, and just because it would feel wrong to not cover them here, I want to include them in this review, so this will just be a very quick rundown of each. Firstly, the maps. The maps in Carnivores are just about perfect, and all brilliantly escalate from one to the next. I'd argue the Woods of Turanchox is the worst and most boring of the bunch, but it sets up what Carnivores is and how it plays out, so for a starting map, it does its job. Basmashi Rocks is about as close to a perfect map as I've seen in the Carnivores series. Its diversity and structure is unrivaled, and to this day remains my favorite map of the original games. The jungles of Gravit Sappa is the perfect mainstream dinosaur area, playing off the strengths of stereotypical dinosaur imagery like deserts, volcanoes, and fog-filled jungles. The ancient temple is legendary for its introduction of sentient life on the dinosaur planet, as well as introducing supernatural elements into the Carnivores lore. The Pyramids of Shmuhadron is a phenomenal map, split into 3 distinct areas for various hunting preferences, and features dinosaur-themed pyramids, earning it the title of my personal second favorite map in Carnivores. And the Great Lake embodies the perfect concluding tone. It's ominous yet tranquil, conveying a foreboding feel, symbolic of the end times of the dinosaurs, who themselves are also just about perfect. It must be said, the animals of Carnivores make the world feel so alive. Perhaps it's just the smaller size of the maps, but there are animals everywhere, living and thriving in their own ways. Gallimimus was already popular thanks to Jurassic Park, which, one can argue, is why it's even in Carnivores to begin with, but Moschops and Dimorphodon were relatively unknown and obscure picks, and I like to think that their inclusion here helped make them more well-known. Carnivores plays to the strengths of well-known dinosaur families in popular culture. Parasaurolophus represents the Hadrosaur family, boasting a gorgeously patterned hide and a striking and individualizing adornment. Pachycephalosaurus represents pachycephalosaurs, and to this day remains my favorite animal from the original Carnivore series. Its gentle call and simple, rounded yet grizzled appearance always stood out to me. Something about the way its head is shaped I just love. Stegosaurus represents stegosaurs, posing a new challenge by having only one weak zone, the head. Allosaurus represents generic carnosaurs, and is pretty evidently a test-build dinosaur, probably a raptor prototype, but it still kind of bears the crest of its namesake over its eyes from certain angles. Carnivores features 2 bipedal herbivores and 2 quadrupedal ones, the second of which is Triceratops, representing ceratopsian dinosaurs. Second only to Tyrannosaurus in popularity, the iconic Triceratops perfectly embodies what the dinosaurs of the dinosaur planet represent, seemingly ripped straight from Mr. Burian's paleo art. Velociraptor represents smaller, faster carnivores. After its surge in popularity thanks to Jurassic Park, it's no surprise that the Velociraptor appears in Carnivores, heavily inspired by the Velociraptors from the Lost World. And of course, what would a dinosaur game be without Tyrannosaurus Rex? The T-Rex is alpha, king, the unrivaled ruler of its domain, and, as cliché as it is, embodies the perfect finale to a beautiful dinosaur roster. The weapons in Carnivores are simple, but perfectly designed for their jobs. The shotgun is the all-around weapon, trading stealth and accuracy for high damage and a fast firing rate. Its unrealistically obnoxious iron sights make hitting the target zones of fleeing herbivores difficult, but against a charging carnivore, it can be a lifesaver. The X-bow is the opposite of the shotgun, slow but stealthy. It too features obnoxious iron sights, but it's compensated for featuring more ammunition and being extremely silent, allowing hunters to pretty much fire test shots without being discovered. Plus, it's got an extremely unique build and an iconic design. Once you unlock the sniper rifle, it will be your best friend. Hitting a moving Allosaurus or Velociraptor is tricky, but there isn't another firearm that can down dinosaurs with this much ease. However, it is the last weapon you want against a charging carnivore. You're better off calling in an evac than trying to fight your way out of that situation. Ultimately, the weapons in Carnivores are few, but each one does what the other 2 can't, and by covering the basics, they form a nice, simple, dependent relationship with one another. And of course, for me personally, the legacy of Carnivores is a big part of my life. I've said this before on the channel, but I've never been much of a gamer. For the longest time, the Carnivores games were the only ones I owned, and I got into them not because of gaming, but because of dinosaurs. Carnivores was and is one of the most unique and story-driven open-world dinosaur games ever, and one that, in my opinion, does not get enough recognition. Ironically enough, Carnivores was the last game in the original series that I added to my collection. At that point, I owned Carnivores 2, Ice Age, and Cityscape. Dinosaur Hunter Mobile was still a few years away at that point. And I remember looking through the WizardWorks Outdoors Complete Software Collection booklet that came with my copy of Carnivores 2 and thinking, I need the original. I even wrote a letter to WizardWorks asking if they'd send me the cost of the game so I could buy it. My parents, of course, covered the behind-the-scenes purchasing, but I even got the letter stamped and replied, which is still really cool. As with all of the Carnivores games, I kept everything from my physical copy. The box, the instruction manual, the CD, and of course the letter. Because it's newer than the others, the box is still in pretty decent shape, especially compared to like my Carnivores 2 box, but it still contains a ton of nostalgic memories for me. I still remember the day my brother and I were outside playing when I saw the FedEx truck pull up. Didn't think anything of it. Then, when we went inside, the Carnivores box was there waiting for me, and I was so excited. I installed it right away and fell in love. I remember seeing the Triceratops on the back cover, skimming the instruction manual to see what new dinosaurs were in the game, falling in love with Basmashirox and the Pachycephalosaurus, killing the biggest T-Rex in the game on top of the pyramids of Shmuhadron, and having so many other incredible adventures on the dinosaur planet. Carnivores may not have been my first foray into the franchise as intended, and it may not have aged that well compared to its successors. But in terms of world building, storytelling, balance, dinosaur design, and so many other creative elements, Carnivores stands head and shoulders above the dinosaur games of its time and some of today. and is still one of my favorite dinosaur media of all time. So there you go, guys, the first entry in our Throwback Carnivores review series. This is my, oh my goodness, fourth or fifth attempt at recording this episode. It's been rough. Either Audacity just stops recording altogether, or records part of a session, or records the whole thing with some horrible crackling and popping sounds all through the audio. It's been a journey to get here, and I'm watching the waveforms right now, and I'm hoping that it's doing well. But I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and be sure to let me know what you think of the original Carnivores game. Were you ever able to play it? Do you actually own it? What are your favorite memories playing Carnivores? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. And guys, thanks as always for watching. I know videos aren't quite as frequent as they used to be, but I'm really glad I'm able to put in the extra time and effort into each one, and I hope you guys are still enjoying the content. I know lots of people want to see something different on the channel, like The Isle or Ark. Ugh. But there are plenty of other dinosaur YouTubers out there for that stuff. Carnivores is rare and unique, and maybe we will try something new in the future on a separate channel or something, but I like to think that Carnivores is what makes this channel unique, and I plan to keep honoring its legacy for as long as I can. I mean, go watch pretty much any other dinosaur YouTuber's videos on the Carnivore series, and hopefully you'll understand why I made mine in the first place. But as long as you guys keep watching this content, I will for sure keep making it. Thanks again for watching, guys. You are all truly, truly the best. And I will see you guys next time.